I understand that Justin Trudeau, just in the last hour, did a press conference, and I am no fan of Justin Trudeau, obviously. But I just saw a note that he was being hounded by the media party from the pro-Hamas side, as in they were pressing him to condemn Israel. They won't even use the word terrorist. Do we have any clips of that? Here, let's play a little bit. I haven't seen it. I just got a little note about it. Let's take a look. And I don't think it is humanly possible for anyone to convince me to be sympathetic towards Justin Trudeau. But let's take a look here and see what the media sound like scrumming Trudeau. Let's take a listen.
Canada supports Israel's right to defend itself in accordance with international law. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and it does not represent the Palestinian people or the legitimate aspirations of the Palestinian people, and it does not represent Arabs or Muslims. Israeli and Palestinian civilians deserve to live in peace, in security, in dignity, and with their human rights respected. Canada will be providing an initial $10 million in humanitarian assistance to address urgent needs in Israel and in the Gaza Strip, and Minister Hussen will have more details soon. As events abroad unfold, I want to take a moment to reassure the Jewish and Muslim communities here in Canada who are feeling especially vulnerable. I want you to know that we continue our efforts to keep our places of worship and communities safe. And our government is in regular contact with the leadership of the RCMP, and your local MPs are closely liaising with law enforcement. We must always stand united as Canadians. This is something that is core to Canada. We take care of each other, even in the most difficult of times, and we support each other always.
Right, that's Trudeau's comments. Do we have any video of the press scrum afterwards? Because that's what I was told in a quick note was more interesting. If you don't have it handy, don't worry about it. We'll look at it later. The whole idea of the live stream is that we go with what we have handy. Here, I think we might have a video. Yeah, here we go. Looks like he's answering questions here. Let's take a look.
Canada has said that all sides in the conflict between Israel and Hamas must follow humanitarian law. You said a year ago, talking about Russia's attacks on Ukraine, that indiscriminate attacks on innocent civilians constitutes a war crime. So with that, what's your position on the siege in Gaza?
Well, there is no question that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has brutally murdered innocent civilians, that has chosen to invade Israel, that has chosen to cause just horrific devastation, and on top of that, has taken hostages in total and flagrant violation of all international laws and norms. Israel has the right to defend itself in accordance with international law, and we continue to look for ways to support civilians in both Palestinian and Israelis, and ensure that as many civilians as possible are kept safe during this terrible conflict that is the responsibility and the fault of the terrorist organization known as Hamas.
Imagine, and I wonder who that reporter is, imagine comparing Israel's response to a terrorist attack to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and imagine implying that Israel's retaliation against Hamas is an indiscriminate attack, as in they don't aim any differently between a terrorist and a civilian. I wonder who that reporter is. They're really all interchangeable, aren't they? Well, listen, I went off on a bit of a tangent today because I just started thinking about how thin the line is that separates us from the barbarity of the past. Sometimes we think history only goes one way. It's always going to get better. Life expectancy is always going to get higher. Poverty is always going to get lower. Happiness will get higher. The economy will get stronger. We'll all get freer. Everything's going in an irreversible, one-way, happy direction. And I think that's not true. And in fact, I think the last 75 years has been an anomaly. And I don't want to overstate this because, listen, there were mighty things happening a week ago. China, Russia. I mean, there were a lot of things going the wrong direction. America itself is falling. It's just so clearly the similarities, the commonalities with the fall of Rome. But this feels like it reveals a level of cruelty and barbarism that is biblical. And I don't know if we have the moral courage to withstand it. It was the greatest generation, they called it, that rose to the challenge of Hitler and saved the world. Would you say that we are the greatest generation now? Would you say that? Would anyone say that? I don't think so. Are our institutions as strong as they were? I think we've seen the proof of that. Economically, morally, diplomatically, I think we're so Canada's laughed at internationally. Canada's not even included. There was a statement by a 5-country group I had never heard of. I've heard of the G7. I've heard of the G20. I've heard of the UN. I've heard of the Security Council. I've heard of the General Assembly. I've heard the 5 Eyes, Security Intelligence Network. That's Canada, the UK, Australia, US, and New Zealand. The 5 Eyes. That's sort of like the Super Friends, like the inner circle of allies. I've heard of NATO. I've heard of the OECD. I've heard of many groups, but I've never heard of the Quint before. And that's basically the Super Friends allies minus Canada. And when they put out a statement the other day condemning this joint statement on Israel, we were not even invited to sign it because I don't think anyone takes Trudeau seriously. China doesn't. India doesn't. No one does.
Hey folks, that was a clip from the daily live stream I co-hosted Monday to Thursday from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Alberta team takes over on Friday. Please tune in. And by the way, we want to hear your 2 cents worth. If you're able to make a minimal $5 donation, we will read your chat on the air live. Thank you.
Justin Trudeau's new censorship law, Bill C-18. It's a shakedown and a desperate attempt to keep the mainstream media afloat. Many have already lost their ability to access our Facebook and Instagram pages. The blackout will soon affect every user in Canada. We've partnered with Private Internet Access, a VPN provider dedicated to safeguarding digital privacy. For just $2 a month, you can maintain your access to our content across all your devices at piavpn.com/rebelnews.